I never meant to hurt you. I know. I still love you. I thought I lost you forever.
But I'm here now. I'm back with you.
The woman stepping off the last train was carrying a sleeping child, wearing Lena's yellow coat. And she had the same face Adrian Mercer watched get buried 3 years ago. He stopped so hard his keys slipped from his hand. Because the dead woman looked up, saw him across the platform, and went pale. Then she turned and ran. If you've ever lost someone and kept replaying the last thing you said to them like it might someday change the ending, stay with me. Because Adrian was about to find out that grief had lied to him for 3 years, and the truth was worse than death. "Lena!" His voice cracked across the station. She didn't stop. She grabbed the little boy's hand and pushed through the closing doors into the rain. Adrian ran after her, shoving past commuters, knocking a suitcase sideways, his heart thundering so hard it felt painful. The little boy looked back over his shoulder. Dark eyes. His eyes. Adrian hit the doors just as they sealed. By the time he burst outside, a gray sedan was pulling away from the curb. Red taillights vanished into the wet city street. He sprinted after it anyway. Pointless. Stupid. Desperate. The car disappeared around the corner, and Adrian stood in the rain like a man whose ghost had just looked him in the face and chosen someone else. Then he saw something lying near the curb. A tiny blue knit cap. He picked it up with shaking fingers. Sewn inside the lining were 2 words. For Milo. His knees weakened. Because 3 years ago, Lena had been pregnant with a baby boy. And 3 years ago, everyone told Adrian both of them were gone. He stared at the hat until the platform lights blurred through the rain. Then the past came back all at once. It had started with a storm. Lena had come to his workshop after midnight, drenched, breathing hard, clutching an envelope to her chest like it was a bomb. "We have to leave," she said. Adrian was under a half-built boat, covered in sawdust and engine grease. "Now?" "Yes, Adrian, now." He slid out and saw her face. Not angry. Terrified. "What happened?" She pressed a hand to her stomach, and her voice dropped. "I'm pregnant." The room went silent around him. For half a second, fear disappeared. There was only wonder. A boy. A family. Her. Then he saw the envelope trembling in her hands. "My father knows I took files from his office," she said. "Documents, payments, names. Proof he covered up the shipyard fire. Proof he paid inspectors. If he gets them back, people walk free. If he doesn't," her voice cracked, "he'll come for us." Adrian stared at her. "Your father?" "Don't make me explain who he is." "You know exactly who he is." He did. Charles Bell owned half the town, bought the other half, and smiled at church like God was on retainer. Adrian's own father had died in the Harbor 8 shipyard fire. 8 men trapped because safety systems failed. Bell had called it tragic. Lena shoved the envelope at him. "I need you to choose me right now." He should have said yes. He should have taken her hand and never looked back. Instead, he looked around his workshop, at unpaid bills, at his tools, at the life he thought he still had time to put in order. "Give me until morning," he said. Lena stared at him like he had slapped her. "Morning?" "We can't run with nothing. We can if the alternative is dying. Lena, I'm trying to think. I already did the thinking. Her eyes filled. I just needed to know if you'd come. He stepped toward her. I will. But not tonight. Those 4 words destroyed something. She backed away, shaking her head. You always wait until danger becomes real enough to touch. That's not fair. No, she whispered. What's not fair is finding out I'm carrying your child and realizing your fear is still bigger than your love. She left. He stood there for one cursed minute, frozen between instinct and caution, between love and the terrible human habit of believing there will always be one more chance. By the time he got to the cliff road, her car was hanging through a broken guardrail. The passenger side was crushed, glass everywhere, waves smashing black rock below. No Lena, no envelope, no future. They found blood, her scarf, a broken bracelet. No body. But the ocean was enough for everyone. The police said the current probably took her. The town said she panicked. Charles Bell said his daughter had been troubled, and maybe some losses were too heavy to survive. Then he looked right at Adrian outside the church and added quietly, "Stay away from my family." They buried an empty coffin. And Adrian let them. Not because he believed it, because grief can wear you down until doubt feels like loyalty. Now, 3 years later, the dead woman had stepped off a train with a son named Milo. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He bribed a station employee for camera footage. He called an old mechanic friend who knew half the city's plate numbers. By sunrise, he had enough. The gray sedan belonged to Bell Medical Holdings. His blood ran cold. This wasn't fate. This was Charles Bell. By noon, Adrian was parked across from a private rehabilitation estate on the edge of town. Tall hedges, security gate, nurses, quiet money. At 10:17, the gate opened, and there she was. Lena, alive. She walked slowly, thinner than before, hair cut shorter, one hand on a small boy's shoulder. The child wore red rain boots and dragged a wooden whale by the tail. Adrian nearly stopped breathing. That whale. He had carved it the week they found out the baby was a boy. Lena bent down to say something to Milo, and the way she tucked his coat under his chin hit Adrian harder than the sight of her face. Because she wasn't a ghost. She was a mother. He got out of the truck without thinking. Lena. She looked up. Her expression changed instantly. Confusion. Fear. A strange recognition she seemed to hate. She pulled Milo behind her. Who are you? The words hit like a blade. Adrian stared. What? Who are you? She repeated, louder this time. Milo peeked around her leg. Mama? Mama. Adrian's eyes burned. Lena, it's me. A black SUV rolled through the gate. Charles Bell stepped out in a dark coat, calm as a priest. Well, he said, I was wondering when your obsession would turn public. Adrian didn't look at him. What did you do to her? Charles moved beside his daughter like he belonged there. My daughter survived a severe head injury. Her memory is fragile. She doesn't need this. Lena kept staring at Adrian. Something inside her looked unsettled, like a locked room hearing a familiar knock. Adrian held up the little blue cap. Ask him why I found this at the station. Charles's face changed for half a second. That was enough. Lena noticed it too. Then Adrian said the name like a lit match. Milo. She went still. "How do you know my son's name?" she whispered. Charles cut in immediately. "Inside. Now." Adrian took one step forward. "Because he's my son." Lena's lips parted. Charles's hand clamped onto her arm, and Milo, frightened by the rising voices, started to cry. A guard shoved Adrian back hard enough to nearly drop him. Charles guided Lena toward the building while she looked over her shoulder, stunned, like her body recognized something her mind refused to accept. That night, Adrian went to the only person in town who might still listen. Detective June Navarro had seen enough rich men weaponize paperwork to know evil doesn't always arrive looking violent. Sometimes it arrived groomed and well-spoken. When Adrian told her Lena was alive, June stared at him a long time. Then she asked, "You certain?" "I saw her. Could have been someone who looked like her." "With my son?" That made June sit up. He told her everything. The train, the hat, the facility. Charles calling it a memory issue. Lena acting like she knew him and feared him at the same time. June opened her laptop. If Bell kept his daughter hidden under medical guardianship, that's a crime. If he concealed her after the crash, she looked up. Then this gets ugly. It's already ugly. Not yet, June said. Ugly is when truth gets documents. By morning, she had some. A rehab file under the name Elise Warren. Privately funded by Bell Holdings. Admitted 3 years earlier with traumatic brain injury and partial retrograde amnesia. Temporary legal guardianship. Charles Bell. Renewed. Renewed. Renewed again. Then the birth record. Male child, Milo Warren. Fatherfield blank. Adrian leaned on June's desk like the room had shifted under him. He erased me. June didn't argue. Looks that way. He told her I was dangerous. Probably. He buried her alive. June's jaw tightened. I can't arrest him yet. These files were hidden, but not enough. I need testimony. Proof of coercion. A witness. What if we don't have time? June turned the screen toward him. A transfer order. Lena and Milo scheduled for an overseas clinic in Switzerland. Departure, tomorrow morning. Adrian felt something dark and reckless rise inside him. June saw it immediately. Don't. Don't what? Don't go charging in there like pain gives you legal immunity. He almost laughed. That afternoon, someone knocked on Adrian's front door. It was Evelyn Bell. Lena's mother looked 10 years older than the last time he saw her. No jewelry, no perfume. Just a woman carrying guilt like it had weight. She stepped inside and saw the nursery door cracked open. Her hand flew to her mouth. You kept it, she whispered. He didn't answer. Evelyn sat at the table and gripped her own hands to stop them shaking. The night Lena crashed, she had proof Charles signed off on the safety payments before the Harbor 8 fire. Adrian went cold. He knew? Yes. My father died because he knew? Tears filled Evelyn's eyes. Yes. Adrian turned away fast. Rage made the edges of his vision blur. She confronted him, Evelyn said. On the cliff road. They fought over the files. She fell, struck her head. She was alive when they pulled her out. Confused, bleeding, kept asking for you. Adrian's chest tightened so painfully he had to grip the sink. Charles said the accident was an opportunity, Evelyn whispered. He said if her memories were unstable, he could protect her, protect the family, protect everything he built. He kidnapped his own daughter. Evelyn looked at him with hollow shame. And I let him. Why are you telling me this now? Because she's remembering. Evelyn took out a silver locket and slid it across the table. And because he plans to leave tonight, not tomorrow. Inside the locket was a photo strip of Adrian and Lena laughing so hard neither of them had looked at the camera. On the back, in Lena's handwriting, "Whatever happens, choose us." Adrian closed his eyes. 3 years earlier, he hadn't. That evening, Charles Bell held a charity gala at the conservatory downtown. The whole town came dressed in borrowed righteousness. Adrian went straight through the front entrance. He saw Lena near the staircase in a dark green dress, too pale beneath the lights. No Milo in sight. Fear hit him so fast it felt electric. Charles noticed him immediately. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said with a sad smile crafted for public sympathy, "it seems grief has followed us again." People turned. Phones came out. Lena looked between them, confused. Adrian held up the locket. "Lena, look at this." She did. Everything in her face changed. A flicker, a crack. Breath catching like her body had just slammed into a locked memory from the inside. "Why do I know that?" she whispered. Charles stepped closer. "Because this man has been fixated on you for years." Adrian ignored him. "Because we were engaged, because you were pregnant, because Milo is my son." The room erupted. Lena staggered back. Charles grabbed her arm. "Security!" 2 guards seized Adrian. He fought them, not to hurt anyone, just to stay where she could see him. "He told you I didn't come," Adrian shouted. "Didn't he? He told you I abandoned you." Lena looked at her father, not at Adrian. That was worse. Charles leaned close to her and murmured something only she could hear. Instantly, her face shut down, terror rushing back in. They dragged Adrian down the marble steps and threw him into the rain while guests watched from under the awning like the night's entertainment had finally delivered. June was waiting by her car, furious. "You want to help her or make yourself look unstable in front of witnesses?" "He has Milo." "I know." "He said something to her." "I know." Adrian wiped blood from his lip. "Then do something." June didn't answer right away. She handed him a copy of a nurse complaint from the rehab facility. Anonymous. Buried. It said Lena had repeated distress whenever she asked about her life before the accident. It also said the guardian controlled all narratives about her identity. "He's been gaslighting his own daughter for years," June said quietly. "That complaint alone won't take him down. But if Lena remembers enough to testify..." Adrian's phone vibrated. Unknown number. "I remember the whale." Then another message. "Old boathouse. Alone." Adrian was already moving. The boathouse smelled like cedar, salt, and old promises. Lena stood inside, in jeans and a sweater, hair loose over her shoulders, looking more like herself than he had seen yet. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she said, "You made me a wooden whale." His throat tightened. "Yeah. My father told me I imagined it." "You didn't." She stepped closer. "I keep seeing pieces. Paint on your cheek, a ring in your hand, a room with moons on the walls." Tears rose. "I think I used to laugh more." "You did." She almost smiled. Then it vanished. Did you love me? He stared at her. Every day. Even after? Especially after. That broke something in her. She covered her mouth, crying before the sound came. I lost so much, she whispered. He took one careful step closer. None of that was your fault. She looked up. I remembered one more thing. What? The night at your workshop? You asked for until morning. Her eyes shone with pain. And I left believing you chose fear over us. I did, he said, because lies had already stolen enough from them. For 1 hour, maybe less, but yeah, I did. And I've hated myself for it every day since. She searched his face. No defense, no excuse, just truth. Then she nodded once, like honesty hurt but mattered. Milo's outside in the nurse's car, she said. A woman from the clinic helped me leave. She said if I wanted my life back, I had to run before he moved us again. Headlights flashed through the slats. Lena's face drained. He found us. A child screamed outside. Milo. Adrian ran. The yard was chaos. The nurse was on the ground beside the car. Charles Bell stood at the dock holding Milo by the shoulder with one hand and a pistol in the other. Rain whipped sideways across the harbor. Mama! Milo cried. Lena stumbled out behind Adrian. Dad, please! Charles looked at her with disgust. After everything I did for you. You erased me. I saved you from him. Adrian stepped forward slowly. Let the boy go. Charles aimed the gun. You've already cost me one daughter. I won't lose my name, too. The only thing you're losing tonight is control. Charles smiled thinly. Still dramatic for a mechanic. You killed my father. No, Charles said. I simply chose profit over men who thought they were irreplaceable. Lena made a sound like she'd been punched. Milo was sobbing, trying to twist free. Adrian had to keep him talking, keep the gun steady, keep Lena alive. You pushed her car, Adrian said. Charles didn't deny it. I corrected a disaster before it could speak. Lena's eyes filled with horror. You told me he never came, she whispered. Charles looked at her coldly. He didn't come in time. That landed because it was partly true. Adrian felt it cut through him. Lena looked at Adrian then, really looked at him, and saw how much that truth had already punished him. That was the moment she stopped belonging to her father's version of the story. Police sirens rose faintly in the distance. Charles heard them too. He started dragging Milo toward a speedboat tied at the dock's end. He'll take him, Lena said, panicked. Adrian! Milo suddenly bit Charles's hand, hard. Charles cursed and loosened his grip. Adrian lunged. The gun fired. Wood exploded beside him. Lena grabbed an emergency flare from the dock box, ripped the cap off with trembling hands, and sparked it alive in a burst of red fire. Charles fired again and missed. Then a wave slammed the dock. Milo slipped between two broken boards, dangling over black water by one leg. Everything stopped. Adrian dove and caught the boy's jacket with both hands just as he dropped. Milo screamed into the storm. I've got you! Adrian shouted. Charles raised the gun again. Lena swung the burning flare across his face. He howled, blinded, stumbling backward. The gun flew from his hand and vanished into the harbor. Adrian hauled Milo up onto the dock and crushed him against his chest. The boy clung to him, shaking violently. Then, in a tiny, broken voice, Milo whispered, "Daddy?" Adrian froze. Rain streamed down his face. He couldn't tell if the salt in his mouth was ocean or tears. He held the boy tighter. "Yeah," he whispered. "Yeah, buddy. I'm here." At the end of the dock, Charles tried one last time to reach the speedboat. Rotten wood gave under his feet. He crashed through to one knee, half hanging over the water. Blue lights flooded the harbor. June and 2 officers raced down the pier. Charles reached up blindly as the dock cracked beneath him. Adrian could have let him fall. God knew part of him wanted to. But Milo was watching. Lena was watching. And if Adrian became that kind of man tonight, Charles would still win. So Adrian handed Milo to June, ran forward, and grabbed Charles by the coat before he slipped fully through. Charles stared up in disbelief. "Why?" Adrian pulled once, hard, keeping him above the freezing water until the officers dragged him free and slammed him into cuffs. "Because I'm not you." That was the end of Charles Bell. Not the legal end, that came later. But it was the end of his power. Because once one truth gets loose, the others come hunting. The nurse testified. Evelyn testified. The clinic records surfaced. So did the payments tied to the Harbor 8 fire. The sealed complaints. The falsified guardianship renewals. The transfer orders. The town that once called Adrian unstable suddenly wanted to call him brave. He didn't care. All he cared about was the quiet part after the storm. Because getting Lena back was not a clean miracle. It was work. Some mornings, she remembered the smell of his workshop and the shape of his hands. Other mornings, she woke up frightened by pieces of a life that still felt borrowed. Milo had nightmares for weeks. Adrian stayed anyway. He fixed Lena's sink, took Milo to the park, sat through doctor visits, waited outside panic attacks, never pushed when memory hurt too much. One evening, Lena finally walked into the nursery Adrian had built before Milo was born. Moon wallpaper, whale mobile, small bed by the window. She stood in the doorway and began to cry. "I missed everything," she whispered. "His first laugh, his first steps, all of it." Adrian moved beside her. "You were robbed." She shook her head furiously. "I should have known." "You survived. That's what you knew." She turned to him, tears streaking down her face. "Do you ever stop hating yourself for one bad choice?" He looked at the crib, then at her. "No," he said. "You just try to make sure it doesn't become your whole life." That answer undid her more than comfort would have. She kissed him then. Not like a movie ending. Like grief finally exhaling. Messy. Trembling. Real. Months later, on a clear spring afternoon, Lena asked Adrian to meet her at the cliff road. He hated that place. Still, he went. Milo was farther back with June, tossing pebbles into the grass and pretending each one was a boat. Lena stood by the new guardrail with the wind lifting her hair. "For a long time," she said, "I thought this was where I lost everything." Adrian stayed quiet. She looked at him. But it wasn't here. It was inside the lie. Then she took the plain steel ring he had worn all these years and slid it back onto his finger herself. Not as if nothing happened. Not as if love erased pain. As if love had survived it. Milo ran up a second later and tugged Adrian's jacket. "Can we go home now?" Adrian looked at Lena. She smiled through shining eyes and nodded once. So he bent, picked up his son, and said the words he used to think fate had stolen forever. "Yeah, buddy, let's go home." Because people later would say fate brought her back. They were wrong. Fate didn't bring her back. Truth did. Pain did. Choice did. And love, real love, the kind that stays after humiliation, after regret, after stolen years, isn't just finding someone again. It's being worthy of them when they return.